My name is Jessica Langley, I'm 29, and I was supposed to be a wife by now. Not in some vague someday sense, I mean it literally. I was supposed to be married at 4:20 p.m. on a golden Saturday afternoon in Sonoma County, California. The venue was perfect. The ceremony arch was wrapped in eucalyptus and white roses. There was champagne chilled, name cards arranged, custom playlists queued. I had a white silk dress. Custom. Fitted like second skin. I had family flying in from New York, Oregon, even Toronto. I had Ryan, my fiancé of 3 years. Everything was ready. Everything except him. At exactly 3:24 p.m. I got a message on my phone. One notification, plain as breath. I can't do this. I'm sorry. That was it. 7 words. No call. No confrontation. No knock at the bridal suite door. Just silence, and a blinking cursor next to his name on my iPhone. I read the message once. Then again. Then I locked the screen and stared out the window. The wedding planner, Jade, knocked lightly and asked, 10-minute call okay? My best friend Liza was adjusting her heels. My cousin Heather was pinning down my veil again. Someone had just brought me a flute of Prosecco. And I was no longer a bride. Just a girl in a white dress with a crater in her chest. No one noticed right away. I didn't scream. I didn't sob. I stood up, walked to Jade, handed her my phone and whispered, "You need to cancel everything. He's not coming." Her lips parted, confused. I said it again, firmer. "It's off." The next hour was chaos in slow motion. I watched it unfold like I was watching someone else's life collapse. Some guests didn't understand at first. They thought maybe the groom was running late. My mom, Clara, tried to argue with me like I was overreacting. As if a text message like that had room for misinterpretation. My dad, Greg, sat with his elbows on his knees, rubbing his face like he'd seen this coming. The flowers were boxed. The food was canceled. The band was paid and dismissed. The only thing louder than the absence of vows was the buzz of gossip that started winding through the grapevines before the sun even touched the horizon. I went back into the bridal suite, took off the dress carefully, as if it still mattered, and sat in silence. Everyone tried to help. Liza brought wine. Heather brought sarcasm. My Aunt Carol offered prayer. No one brought me peace. Until Liza sat next to me, quiet, and asked, "So what do you want to do?" And for the first time that day I heard myself think. We'd booked 10 days in Santorini. Full package. Private villa. Infinity pool. Boat tours. Candlelit dinners. I stared at the itinerary. Then at my passport. Then at my reflection, swollen eyes, bare shoulders, a half-open suitcase. And I said it out loud. "I'm still going." Liza blinked. "To Greece." "Yep. Alone." My mother called it reckless. My father offered to come with me for support. Carol said it was bad optics. But I didn't care about optics. I needed distance. From the pity. From the whispers. From the image of empty vows and unopened gifts. So the next morning, while the florist tried to figure out how to recycle $8,000 worth of greenery, I was in the air 32,000 feet above everything I thought my life was going to be. I cried on the plane. But not the way people cry in movies. No running mascara or gasps. Just quiet tears, the kind that fall because your body doesn't know what else to do. Santorini was everything I remembered from travel blogs. Whitewashed buildings, blinding sunlight, sea breeze that kissed your skin like forgiveness. But it didn't fix me. The first 2 days I barely left the villa. I stayed in the plunge pool. Ordered room service. Slept too long. Avoided texts. Woke up disoriented at 3 a.m. and watched the sky slowly turn blue again. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was a way. And a way was the only thing I could process. Day 3, I finally ventured down into town. I walked without purpose, ending up at a cafe perched at the edge of a cliff. I sat. Ordered espresso. Watched couples take selfies with arms around each other's waists. And that's when someone asked, "Mind if I sit here?" I glanced up. A man. Maybe early 30s. Not smiling but not cold either. Just tired. The cafe was full, so I nodded. He didn't introduce himself. Didn't make small talk. Until a waiter came and asked if it was our honeymoon. The man laughed bitterly and said, "Not quite. She canceled the wedding." I took the trip anyway. I turned slowly. "He left me at the altar yesterday." He blinked. Then he nodded. And said, "Fair enough." His name was Caleb Whitman. He was from Vermont. Worked in product design. His wedding had been scheduled for 2 weeks before mine. His ex-fiancée had called it off during the rehearsal dinner. Said she needed to find herself. He said, "Well, I hope she finds her somewhere far from me. We didn't become lovers. At least not then. We became something more rare. Survivors in sync. We ate lunch. Then dinner. Then, over the next few days, we found ourselves walking the stone steps of the island without needing to fill the air with words. He told me he'd been cheated on before. That his family warned him she was unstable, but he didn't want to listen. I told him I didn't see it coming at all. Ryan seemed perfect, smart, kind, supportive. Until he wasn't. And then came the message. It was Liza. She'd been quiet since I left. But now she sent me something that made my blood run cold. A photo. Ryan. My mother. My father. All smiling in a wine bar in town. Captioned, "Sometimes family knows what's best before we do." What the hell? I called her. What is this? She paused. Just they knew. Your parents knew Ryan was planning to back out. They didn't tell you. They thought it was the right thing. They what? They said they were protecting you from marrying the wrong person. So they let me get humiliated? On purpose? Liza didn't answer. She didn't have to. I stood on the balcony of my villa that night, barefoot, robe flapping in the wind, hands shaking. This wasn't just about Ryan anymore. This was about them. My family. The people who were supposed to back me, who instead backed out. They didn't break my heart. They didn't steal my wedding. They robbed me of trust. And I was going to make sure they knew it. I didn't fly back after the honeymoon week. In fact, I extended my stay twice. The villa was too expensive to keep. So I moved into a small family-run guest house farther inland, with lemon trees in the courtyard and no Wi-Fi after midnight. I needed stillness. I needed solitude. I needed space from people who thought love meant control. Caleb stayed too. He moved into a hostel near the cliffside. We didn't plan it. Didn't even really talk about it. We just kept bumping into each other in the mornings. Coffee runs, trail hikes, ferry docks. Until it became a rhythm neither of us wanted to interrupt. He never asked why I hadn't gone home yet. He just said, "There's no rule that says pain has to be processed in proximity to the people who caused it." And God, that hit. Because that was exactly it. I wasn't afraid to go home. I was afraid I'd snap the second I saw their faces. My mom sat head tilt. My dad's quiet, "We just wanted what was best." The same tone they used when I was 12 and they made me quit soccer for piano lessons. They always thought they knew better. Even if it meant breaking me to protect me. One evening I sat with Caleb watching the sun slide into the sea. We shared a bottle of wine. Quiet. Unrushed. He asked, "Do you ever think they regret it?" "No," I said. Because they didn't see it as betrayal. They saw it as wisdom. I paused. They didn't stop Ryan from hurting me. They helped him do it cleaner. That night I called Liza again. My only real link to home. She answered with guilt in her voice. "Jess, you okay?" "No. But I'm awake now. I wanted to tell you. I swear. They told me not to interfere." I leaned back in the hammock. "Did you know they were meeting with him behind my back?" "Not at first. Your mom thought you were rushing. She thought you were ignoring red flags." I laughed. Cold and sharp. And letting me walk into the wedding wasn't ignoring my red flags? They thought he'd come clean himself. He didn't. And none of them told me. No. They said you'd hate them if they did. So they chose to be complicit instead. There's a special kind of rage that comes not from being wronged by enemies, but by the people who were supposed to guard your blind spots. And they used that trust like a weapon. I started writing again. Not in a journal. Not privately. I opened a Google Doc and titled it, "The Day I Wasn't Protected." Started like a Reddit post, but it turned into a statement. A record. A roadmap for someone else somewhere who might be walking toward a ceremony built on silence. Caleb read it one morning on my laptop. He didn't comment, just scrolled, nodded slowly, then said, "You need to post this." "Why? To get sympathy?" "No," he said. "To own your voice before someone else tells your story for you." That stuck. I didn't post it. Not yet. But I kept writing. I detailed the emotional manipulation, the quiet meetings between Ryan and my parents, the quotes Liza had told me, the messages that never came, the assumptions about what I couldn't handle. And the more I wrote, the more I saw a pattern I hadn't named before. They didn't just doubt Ryan. They doubted me. They always had. I was the dreamer, the romantic, the overthinker, the one who needed protecting even from her own decisions. One morning I sat with Caleb and said, "What if I built something? Like really built something?" He didn't mock it. He leaned forward. "Tell me what that looks like." And so I did. We talked for hours about a digital platform for women navigating canceled weddings, broken engagements, family betrayal. Not just Reddit threads or support groups, but an actual recovery space. Resources, legal help, financial guides, therapist directories, reclaim your trip guides, stories. It was messy, raw, half-baked, but it felt real. More real than anything I'd been offered by my family in years. Caleb said he could help with product structure, wireframes, onboarding ideas. I sketched names. Backspace. Unveiled. Reset day. We laughed at some. Cried through others. It didn't feel like distraction. Felt like direction. For the first time since my phone screen shattered my life in 7 words, I wasn't floating. I was steering. Then my mom called. First time since the wedding. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Jessica, we've given you space, but we're worried. We didn't mean to hurt you. We just thought you'd see that Ryan wasn't right. Maybe someday you'll thank us. Please call back." I didn't. Because here's the thing. You don't thank people for betraying you quietly. You don't apologize for not collapsing into their idea of protection. You don't go home to people who let you walk blind into pain, then call it love. And you definitely don't answer calls from the same hands that pushed you over the edge. I didn't write the post out of anger. Not really. I wrote it because I realized something terrifying. If I didn't say what happened, they would. They'd control the story. They'd filter it through concern, misunderstanding, and private family matters. They'd frame it like Ryan had doubts, like I would have regretted it, like the whole thing was just unfortunate, and I couldn't live in that kind of silence anymore. I opened a blank Reddit draft and started writing like I had nothing to lose. The title was simple. My fiancé left me an hour before the wedding. My family helped him do it. I included everything. The date, the text Ryan sent, the photo of him with my parents afterward, how I found out, how they justified it, how I left for the honeymoon alone, how I started building a life without them. I didn't name names. No doxing. No threats. Just facts. My facts. It took 47 minutes to write. It took 3 years of gaslighting to be ready. I hit post and walked away. By the next morning it had 80,000 upvotes. Then 300,000. Then it hit Twitter. Then Instagram. People screen recorded the post. They tagged podcasts. One therapist commented, "This is what generational control looks like. Thank you for naming it." I received over 500 private messages in 3 days. Women, men, strangers, survivors. Some wrote, "My parents did the same. I thought I was crazy." Others, "I didn't go on my honeymoon. Now I wish I had." Someone even said, "You saved me. I was getting married next month. I had doubts. Your post helped me walk away clean." I read every message, and I cried for people I would never meet, 'cause I realized what they stole from me wasn't just a wedding. It was my right to grieve out loud. Now I was taking it back. My mom texted me the next night. "What did you do?" No greeting. No warmth. Just panic. Then, "This is going too far. You need to take it down." Then, "This is a private matter. You're humiliating the family." I didn't reply. She called. I watched the phone ring. Listened to her voice drop into voicemail like it was water hitting stone. She said, "We didn't mean for it to go this far. We just didn't want you to make a mistake. Ryan was unstable. We didn't want you to be tied to that." Tied to what? The man you had dinner with? The man you hugged after he humiliated me? No. You don't get to frame your sabotage as foresight. Then came the message I didn't expect. Ryan. He emailed me. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me stop. It read, "I didn't mean for it to happen like that. They said you'd forgive me if I stepped away clean. That I'd be doing you a favor. I wasn't strong enough to say no. I'm sorry." One sentence stood out. "They said you'd forgive me." That was the whole game, wasn't it? They counted on my silence. On the version of me who swallowed pain to keep peace. The one who hugged at holidays. Who nodded and smiled and said, "It's fine." But that version of me was buried under white roses and ceremony music. She wasn't coming back. I didn't respond to Ryan either. Not out of spite. Out of evolution. Because I'd finally learned the most liberating word in my entire vocabulary. No. No to manipulation dressed as care. No to guilt trips. No to quiet rooms full of just trying to help. No to weddings built on secrets. No to men who disappear with your trust and try to return with sorry stitched from fear. The post became more than viral. It became a story people quoted. One woman started a blog called The Alter Exit Plan. A podcast invited me to talk. I declined. I wasn't ready to speak. I'd spoken enough with the post. But I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. Not of others. Of my narrative. Of my choices. Of my damn life. Caleb read the post on his cracked Kindle screen. He didn't say anything for a full 10 minutes. Then, you didn't burn them. You just opened the blinds. I smiled. Let them squint. We kept building the project. I bought the domain Unveiled. Space. Caleb helped design the prototype. A clean, safe place to land after the kind of implosion no one teaches you how to survive. We added anonymous stories. Legal contacts. A downloadable emergency reset plan. For people who needed to escape their own alter days. And all the while my phone kept buzzing with chaos back home. My Aunt Carol wanted me to clear the air. My cousin said my mom was devastated. Ryan's sister DM'd me a sob story. But I was in Santorini, drinking espresso with someone who never tried to rewrite me. And the ocean never asked for an explanation. I didn't forgive them. Not yet. Maybe never. Forgiveness isn't a tax refund. You don't get it just because you waited long enough. One day, I opened a new document and titled it, The Version They'll Never See. Started like this. You thought I would break quietly. You were wrong. I broke the silence instead. I landed back in California 46 days after my wedding that wasn't. No dramatic airport reunion. No family waiting with open arms. Just me, a navy blue carry-on, and a version of myself no one back home had ever met. I'd left broken. I returned built. Not complete but structured. Held together by choice instead of expectation. My apartment looked exactly the same. The couch I bought with Ryan still sat in the corner. The ghost of a seating chart still hovered in the dining room. The save the dates were tucked in the drawer with the leftover place cards. I didn't touch any of it that night. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged in, checked the analytics on Unveiled. Space. 10,000 signups. Over 200 personal stories submitted. 12 requests for speaking engagements. 3 sponsorship offers from therapy and legal networks. It wasn't just a blog anymore. It was a movement. The next morning my mom showed up at my door. I didn't answer. She left a gift bag, filled with tea, a hand cream I used to like, and a card that said, "You're still our daughter. Let's talk." That night I slid the card into the trash. Not with anger. Just finality. Ryan texted me again 2 days later. He said he wanted to rebuild the trust. He asked to meet in person. He claimed he had proof that it wasn't all his fault. And that was when I realized they were all still playing the same game. The game where I make room for their pain, their explanations, their timing. No, they hadn't earned the right to be heard again. Not after staying silent when I needed truth. So instead I called a lawyer. Not to sue. Just to untangle. See, what no one knew, not Ryan, not my parents, was that I had been the primary financial driver in much of the wedding planning. He promised to handle things later. My parents had fronted some costs but were reimbursed. What was left, however, was tied to a shared business account Ryan and I had opened months before the wedding. Just for organizing payments. I still had access. And that account still had $18,937.64 in it. It was mine. Paid for by my freelance contracts, my design clients, my deposits. So I pulled it. All of it. And I sent him a one-line message. Funds withdrawn. Consider the books closed. Then came the email from my mother. She titled it, "Please don't burn the bridge. I know you're hurting. We all are. But this public behavior, the post, the site, the money, it's not like you. You're becoming someone we don't recognize." I stared at that line for a long time. You're becoming someone we don't recognize. And I smiled. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't bending to be recognizable. I wasn't translating my anger into politeness. I wasn't diluting my boundaries with, but they meant well. I was choosing me. Unapologetically. I issued one final update on Reddit. Not dramatic. Just a post titled, "Closure doesn't require permission." I wrote, "They wanted to be forgiven without confession. They wanted silence where I built a voice. They wanted a version of me who breaks quietly. I'm not her. Not anymore." I came back, not to reconcile but to rebuild. And no, they're not invited. It went viral again. But this time I didn't watch the metrics. Because this time I wasn't looking for reaction. I was stating fact. Caleb and I spoke every few days. Nothing intense. Just updates. He'd flown back to Vermont. Started designing an emotional tracking app for people recovering from major relationship trauma. We joked that we were accidental co-founders of a healing startup empire. But it didn't feel like a joke anymore. I took meetings with a small tech fund in L.A. They loved the organic growth of Unveiled. They wanted to invest. They asked if I had a pitch deck. I said, "No. I have something better." 10,000 people who were told to shut up and smile. The fund lead, a woman in her 40s, paused and said, "You've got something real. Don't let it get softened by people who missed the fire." I wouldn't, because this wasn't about fire. It was about truth. Unashamed. Unbent. Undeniable. 2 days later my dad called. Voicemail again. "I know you're angry, but you only get one family." And for once I answered in my head, not aloud. Wrong. You get one biological family. But the real ones? The ones who stay, who see you, who don't trade truth for comfort. You get to choose them. And I had. 6 months passed. Unveiled. Space was no longer just a concept. It was real. Registered, staffed, funded. We'd hired a trauma-informed counselor as content director. Brought on 2 part-time engineers. Caleb and I held weekly design calls. We didn't talk about what had happened between us, not directly. But there was something easy in the way we worked. The same calm I first felt watching sunsets in Santorini was now woven into our strategy sessions. We were building for people like us. The ones who didn't break, just rewired. One evening I hosted our first live Q&A on the platform. I was nervous, not about the questions, about being seen. This wasn't Reddit. This was my face. My voice. I opened the stream. Said, "Hi, I'm Jess. 6 months ago I got left at the altar. And today I'm here to talk about what happened after." The chat lit up. People from Iceland, Dubai, Oklahoma. All with stories. We didn't cry. We laughed. Hard. Bitter. Healing laughter. Someone typed, "What do you say to people who think you overreacted?" I answered, "It's not an overreaction to tell the truth louder than the people who want you silent." The next morning Caleb called. "You were brilliant." I smiled into the phone. "You watched." "Of course. You made a room full of strangers feel like family." We were quiet for a second. Then he said, "I think I'm coming to California." I sat down. "For the platform?" "For life." Caleb moved into a short-term rental 5 blocks from mine. We didn't rush. We didn't define anything. He brought lemon cookies and ideas. I brought sarcasm and coffee. One day he said, "If you ever want to burn that wedding dress, I'll hold the match." I laughed. "I donated it." He nodded. "That's better. You gave it a better ending." I never spoke to my family again. Not out of hate. Out of preservation. They never apologized. Never asked to visit. Never showed up with anything but guilt and fragile egos. So I let them fade. And you know what? The world didn't end. Sometimes I walk past wedding venues. Sometimes I even peek inside. It doesn't hurt. It feels like watching someone else's dream now. The dress. The arch. The tearful vows. It's beautiful for them. But not for me. Not anymore. Because I don't need a ceremony to validate my joy. I don't need champagne to prove I made it. I don't need a white dress to be seen. I needed myself. And now I have her. My favorite quote in the world says, "You don't rebuild the same house that burned you down. You build something stronger with fireproof walls." So I did. And now? I sleep with the doors locked. The windows open. And no one inside I don't trust. This isn't a love story. This is a becoming. If you're out there, sitting in the wreckage of what was supposed to be, wondering if your story ended when they walked away, it didn't. It just opened. Louder. Sharper. Wider. And this time it's all yours.